My name's Liz Winkelaar, and I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speakers. But before I do, I just want to say how pleased I am to be here today, and also to have been part of this process as part of the committee that helped organize this particular event. But I think that this Diversity to Inclusion series, as Nancy said earlier, has really reached out to different populations in a way that allows for a very deep engagement, allows for rigor, and allows for deeper conversations. So I think these events have been a terrific idea. Anyway, moving on to today's speakers, I'm going to introduce them to you. The first speaker is Kevin Frost. And Kevin is a speed skater, and he's a formidable athlete. He's won 16 gold medals and set 9 world records in blind speed skating. He's a 2-time world champion in blind long track and short track, and he is 10th in the world against able-bodied master speed skaters. Kevin is trained on Team Canada's development rowing team and with the Paralympic blind team in running. In 2008, he skated 100 kilometers on Ottawa Canal to raise $500,000 for the Rotary Home in Ottawa. He won the 2010 United Way Community Builder Award, and is involved with the Lions International, helping deaf and blind children. Kevin initiated the Impaired Speed Skating Association of Canada to help blind skaters compete internationally, and has raised over $23,000 for the organization. Kevin gives motivational talks around the world, and as we see by his presence here today, he's very generous with his time and his passion for a fellow that's such a busy athlete. So maybe I'll turn it over to you, Kevin.
So again, it's a pleasure to be here, an honor to be with this crowd, because I feel like I'm at home. And I hope you enjoy my experiences that I'm going to share with you guys. For 15 years, I did a mission in Mexico to help 28 children hear again. That is one of the most amazing experiences I've ever encountered. But furthermore, for 15 years, I was on 4 different national sporting venues of rowing, track and field, speed skating, and just made the tandem Paralympic cycling team this year, missing podium for the world by 1.2 seconds last June. Damn. So it's been an amazing journey in the sporting world, but best of all, also for the last 15 years, I've helped local families get operations. People who were dying, I was able to get funding for them to let them have a second life. And best of all, in my world, in the blind world, I've helped many children with laptops and computers so they can continue their education. And with my amazing PR team, in 2012, they made a movie after me called Blind Ambition. And I had a great experience with that movie because I opened a foundation called ISAC, Impaired Speed Skating Association of Canada. My goal is to open a world championship in the next 5 to 10 years, but I got to work a little bit harder to make that happen. What's more unique about this presentation is winning 9 gold medals. It took 15 years to accomplish. 15,000 hours of training, and what oddly is, all my world record time accumulate to 15 minutes. I have to take 15 minutes and share with you guys how am I able to do fundraising. So to help my presentation, we're going to get the gentleman to show 2 clips to furthermore to speed up my presentation. So not sure where the clip's going to be being shown, but enjoy the 2 clips. My name is Kevin Frost. At age 11, I lost my hearing. At age 32, I lost my vision. I had Usher syndrome. I used to work 100 hours a week, raise my family. At 32, lost my driver's license and lost my job. My life hit rock bottom. But with the help of great people and support, I was able to bring myself to a new level. Been a lot of hurdles on the way, but now I've changed my journey to get involved in speed skating. Clip 2.
An update now on an amazing athlete who's both blind and deaf. Kevin Frost has discovered, though, in sports, he can make a difference. Here's CTV's Corey Ginther.
He is the world's first blind and deaf speed skater. Kevin Frost lives with Usher syndrome, a condition that takes your hearing early in life and your vision years later.
I have 4% tunnel vision, like looking through McDonald's straws, and 10% hearing.
This is what his world looks like, yet somehow he competes against able-bodied athletes and often wins. This season alone,
I've earned 5 golds, 2 silvers, and 1 bronze. Competing at that level is pretty astronomical.
that is putting it mildly. He has captured the attention of speed skaters around the world. Blind and deaf, Kevin Frost is only 4 seconds off the pace of able-bodied former world champion Jeremy Witherspoon.
She just said, I don't know how you do it, but I said, you know what, we all can do it. We put our mind to it.
Kevin Frost is trying to have speed skating become a demonstration sport at the Paralympic Games. He's had so much success on the ice, he decided to try out his skills on the water. A couple of years ago, he took up rowing, and to no one's surprise, he quickly became one of the best.
Last year I rowed with the able-bodied rowers, and I came 4th in Ontario.
He also rose for the Canadian Paralympic team and is close to securing a spot to the World Championships in Poland. In the near future, he'd also like to try curling and downhill skiing.
If I do that, what's going to happen?
Despite all of his success in sports, his greatest joy is helping others. He gives motivational speeches to various groups across North America. His message, don't sweat the small things.
I always just say, just go in my shoes for a day, and I guarantee you won't be complaining. Someday I hope there's a cure that comes along, but for the time being, I gotta enjoy life with what I got.
For Kevin Frost, others always come first. On a recent vacation to Mexico, he was told about a young boy who had hearing problems. He went to visit him in an isolated village and let the 11-year-old try his hearing aid when magic happened.
Alfredo said, Mama, the mother got to hear his voice for the first time. That was like the peak of the whole, that's been a peak of my life for the last year.
Since then, he's been raising money so Alfredo can get his own hearing aid and proper medical attention. When he feels that situation is in good hands, Kevin Frost will look for someone else to help.
We all give, we're all going to succeed. That's what our world needs to do, especially in the tough times right now. And people need to step up to make a difference.
Together with his guide dog Nemo, Kevin Frost is making the world a better place to live for others, even though he deals with more daily challenges than most of us will have in a lifetime. Corey Ginther, CTV Sports.
Thank you. Actually, that was my other guide dog, Nemo, so it's kind of nice to see him again. Anyways, I have Lewis in front of me from Canadian Guide Dog, and again, Guide Dog do amazing independence and a great organization too. So needless to say, as you know, when I was a young kid, I lost my hearing at a young age, and then I actually had to have 6 years of speech therapy because I was too stubborn to learn sign language, so they taught me how to speak without hearing words. So thank God for a school system who volunteered to help make that happen. I wanted to be an NHL linesman when I was younger, and I was invited to 4 NHL camps. And I was too small, so I continued working for a food chain. I became a workaholic, worked 100 hours a week. Realized my night vision was getting worse and worse. But I wanted to retire young, but I thought money was everything in life, in my perspective. And at age 30, my doctor told me, Kevin, you have Usher syndrome. I said, so? He goes, well, I have to take your license and your job and my passion away, which is refereeing, because they don't want blind referees on the ice, refereeing hockey. So needless to say, with the help of CNIB, Canadian Guide Dog, it regained my confidence to get back into the real world. So I got involved in the sporting industry. And as I was saying, 15 years later, became a world champion. But I still compete against able-bodied. I'll be competing in February against able-bodied in Calgary, the next World Championship. But all of this has to come from somewhere. It's called sponsoring. One of the biggest hurdles any athlete has to encounter. When you're not carded, you're responsible for everything from day one to right till you finish. So one of my secrets are, when I approach my sponsors or anybody who wants to sponsor me, I always say I come with a package. Now what does the package mean to you guys? Well, to me it means I'm able to use my sporting endeavors to my advantage because companies like people when they perform. I had a great PR team who stood by me for 10 years because they helped with my media, they helped me with my movies. With that transpiring, I got involved in doing presentations, 30, 40 a year. What I really like to share is positive energy and attitude is my secret to anything we do in life. By sharing that with all the students, businesses, helping companies boost their morale, I'm able to use my sporting journey and my missions to help many, many people. Companies love when you can give something back to them. They want something to bang for their buck. So I would go to the company and I'd say, what can I offer you? So I'd do a presentation and then they say, wow, we need you to go here, we need you to go there. So in a trade-off, they will sponsor me to go to a world championship. That's one of my little secrets. One of the other secrets is I helped a 14-year-old girl. Parents approached me and said, Kevin, can you help us raise some money? We need $21,000 so my child can go down to the Mayo Clinic to have an operation. That's a lot to ask, but you know what? This child was dying. So I stepped up and I said, I'm doing a fundraising this week for my speed skating, but all that money is going to go to Lisa because your child is dying. She goes, no, you don't do that. I said, that's what we're going to start off with. So a week later, I got 10 companies involved and we had a weekend barbecue. Really interesting, where you raised $5,000. Furthermore, I also belong to Lions International. Lions International is an organization you guys all are aware of who help the blind and disabled in need at all times. Now, being part of the Lions organization, I was able to persuade them to give another $2,000 towards the Mayo Clinic. But I was running into options here. We have 4 days to come up with another $5,000. Got thinking, media. So I called my media friends and I said, this is my situation. He said, no problem, Kev, we'll step up. We'll go and see Lisa at 3 o'clock on Friday and we're going to air it at 5 o'clock. I was presenting that $2,000 check at 5 o'clock and we were in a big conference hall doing another fundraiser for Lisa. And out of nowhere, I seen Lisa's mom jumping up and down. So I said, so what happened? Oh, you won't believe it, Kevin. That clip that just aired, we had 4 anonymous people who were willing to pay for whatever we want. So it's really neat how when we're climbing a mountain, it's always huge. And when you reach the top, it gets bigger and bigger. But you can never give up. It's kind of my training philosophy. Trust me, when I'm training, like I train 2 hours a day on my CompuTrainer, that's 80 kilometers. Can get mind-boggling, get very frustrating. So it's the same philosophy when you're trying to raise money for your organization. For ISAC, having the movie, I brought all my sponsors together and we were able to raise on the spot $25,000 and that was an amazing start. But because the people love what I can give back, I believe in the giving philosophy with the mission. I believe in the giving philosophy by taking families in the Ottawa area, I would go visit them, just to help them with their child get to the next level. It's amazing how far it can go. It's not about how much you can make, it's about a gift you can give back, give somebody their freedom. It's the most powerful tool that we can offer. And I know being a different kind of charities are trying to find ways to get money, but in nowadays time is also tough because everybody's trying to penny pinch. But what's really interesting, if you really want to hit somebody's heart, you actually get them to go in your shoes for a day. I had Minister Ken Dryden go in my shoes for a day. And you know what? We got some more funding through the intervener services. So that'll be another approach, is trying to get people to go in the shoes of that particular disability. And I think it goes a long way, because we all know the show called Undercover Boss. Well, that's the same philosophy. Get your investors to go in the shoes of your organization, and you'd be amazed the wallets will open. And best of all, I think listening to other people's stories, I think Simon's going to be a phenomenal story to listen to too, because I'm always inspired to run into people with different disabilities. And I hope down the road that I'm able to help have the World Championship. I'm hoping that I can get more visual and hearing impaired people compete internationally. I will compete as long as I can. My next journey, there's a couple things up my sleeve, but every day is a great day, guys. Some days are bumpier than others, but just remember, there's somebody else who's worse off than we are. So all I can say to you guys, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. 15 minutes is hard to cover all your stories, but I know, like I said in the beginning, it feels like being here is like winning 9 gold medals, because I'm able to share with people who care, who have a big heart, who want to make a difference. So to all of you, thank you for doing what you guys do. And I hope that down the road that you will see me involved with different advocacies and making difference in the disability world, because I think it goes a long ways when we can change people's lives. And God bless you all.
Oh, Kevin, thank you for that. That's quite the story, and hopefully we'll have time for you to answer a couple of questions. You definitely give new meaning to workaholic and also to the idea of giving back. We've found some very creative and meaningful ways to give back. And our next keynote speaker is Simon Ibell. And Simon is the founder of the iBellieve Foundation and Be Fair to Rare campaign. He's an advocate for human potential, a role model for persons with disabilities, and a crusader for the rare disease community. As one of only 30 people in Canada and approximately 2,000 worldwide born with a condition known as MPS II, mucopolysaccharidosis, or Hunter syndrome, living with this MPS II has taught Simon that every moment of life is precious. Simon has a degree in sports administration from the University of Victoria. He's been awarded the Spirit of Sports Story of the Year Award at the 2003 Canadian Sports Awards, the Queen's Golden Jubilee Commemorative Medal, as well as a Distinguished Alumni Award from St. Michael's University and from the University of Victoria. Simon's book, Rare Diseases in the Age of Health 2.0, was published in 2013. And he's also the executive producer of an upcoming documentary, Boys with Bigger Hearts. Awesome. So, Simon.
Thank you, Liz. It's a real pleasure to be here. My mic's working, I think. To be here. I was introduced to AFP and the Diversity Inclusion Series through my good friend Leah Eustacy, who is a member of the AFP Ottawa chapter. As Liz mentioned, I think it's a kudos to you guys for putting on this great series of diversity inclusion for different groups, that different cultures, and obviously here today with persons with disabilities. As Liz touched on, I suffer from a rare progressive disease known as mucopolysaccharidosis. You did really well pronouncing it. It's a bit of a mouthful, or MPS II, or Hunter syndrome. Basically what that is, and Kevin said it's 15 minutes, is condensed, but it's nice to be here to provide a glimpse of my life and some of the things I've done with the fundraising philanthropy world. So MPS II is a rare progressive disease causing obviously all the complications with my health, being enlarged organs, cardiovascular, pulmonary, hearing, and so on. So each and every one of us, regardless we have disability, we have trillions and trillions of cells in our body. And within the cell, we have something called the lysosome. And the lysosome is responsible for cellular waste removal or cellular rejuvenation. I'm missing that enzyme. that causes the buildup of cellular waste in all systems in my body. That's why I'm shorter in height, curvature in my joints, and causes all these things. So when I was diagnosed in 1979, I'm 36 now. My mother was told that there's 4 people with my condition in the world. And one of the big things I'll touch on briefly today is the key of awareness, because I think awareness, regardless if it's for a person with disabilities or there's so many amazing causes and organizations here in Canada, North America, and globally, is awareness is really key to successful fundraising, and something that I've really focused on my efforts the short time I've been in the fundraising philanthropy world. So when I was diagnosed in 1979, there's 4 people in the world with the condition. If anyone knows my mom, the doctors basically said, put him in a wheelchair, put him in a corner, and let him live out his life. And I'm 36, standing here today. Most people with my condition don't live to see the age of 10. There's obviously progressive, they're all progressive diseases, but there's attenuated and neurological forms of the condition. Unfortunately, I do not have the neurological form. But my mom never takes no for an answer, and obviously that's very fitting today, is the inclusion. And I think that's the number one thing that my parents did for me. First and foremost, my mom and my family, and obviously all my friends, is I'd only met one other person with my condition up until the age of 24. So, like Kevin, sports has been something that's always been a really big constant in my life, playing to a certain level, the age around 13, 14, when the height and the medical complications became too much that I really couldn't participate in sports no longer. But I was always included from a very early age. Obviously, like all of us, we have various disabilities and medical appointments through the yin-yang, and so that was always there. But sports, arts, education, I went to top private school growing up in Victoria, BC, first person with a visible disability to go to that school. So when I heard about it, when I was kindly invited to speak today, I thought the word inclusion was very, very fitting, because there's one word. I think my parents have done many things, and obviously my friends as well. I never considered myself to have a disability. It was always about the ability within the disability, and that's something when I give talks like this to conferences, universities, schools, younger kids, it's always about the ability within the disability, because sure, I think we all have disabilities regardless of they're visible or not. And so that's something I try to do. I'm trying to raise awareness for the iBellieve Foundation, MPS, and rare diseases. So my journey into philanthropy really began at the age of 24, my last year at university, at the University of Victoria. As I mentioned, I'd only met one other person with my condition for no other reason. That just had lots of medical appointments, but just there wasn't many of us, or many that we knew of MPS 2, but obviously MPS is made up of 7 different diseases, and obviously the bigger scope is rare diseases as a whole. So at the age of 24, I had kind of an epiphany. Really, Terry Fox is obviously a big idol here in Canada for many, a Canadian hero, and obviously follow his mantra is that I may have a disability, but it's not a handicap. And I really took that to heart. And so in my last year at university, I said to a group of friends, I want to bike down Vancouver Island. So I biked down Vancouver Island in the summer of 2002, over 10 days. So if anyone's familiar with Vancouver Island, when you get past Campbell River, the terrain changes quite a bit. So it's about just over 500 kilometers from top to bottom. We stopped at schools and give talks about overcoming obstacles, raising awareness for MPS 2, MPS, and rare diseases. And in that 10 years, that was in summer 2002, over those 10 days, we raised over $250,000. And so that was kind of my journey into philanthropy. As I mentioned, I was actually on the path to go into business and finance, and one of my professors became a mentor of mine. And my second year at university, Dr. Martin Collis, who's actually the founder of Participation, and he said, you just kind of hit it off. It's one of those things that the doors to life swing on small hinges, and I was on the waiting list for this class, and that class I was able to get in because I was in another faculty, and lo and behold, he became kind of a mentor, especially in my speaking, and from that point forward, he inspired me to share my story with many groups over the years, so that's many years ago. And so that last year at university, I actually went to my first family conference for MPS families down in the States, and as I mentioned, MPS made up of 7 different groups of diseases, whereas MPS 2 is the second one. They're all similar, but different in the genetic traits. And so as a result, I stayed in touch and really became inspired by all these different families and patients. And even though I was included in everything, in every facet of my life, and never considered myself to have a so-called disability, meeting and going to that conference really changed the course of my life, because I was like, I can relate to this. I finally had the ability to meet others that went through what I went through. Not that I ever really talked about it, not that I had to, but someone that I had a community. And so that was just before we did this bike ride, and I really believed from that point forward, I wanted to make a difference for this group, because a lot of them don't have a voice. And so that summer we did the bike ride. I went on to work as a consultant, worked for the British Columbia BC government, actually consulting on persons with disabilities. And then lo and behold, in the fall of 2003, there was an opportunity. We traveled all over the world. By the time I was like 10 years old, being to 27 countries looking for treatments and therapies that didn't exist. But because I went to this conference, it was just one of those things that really changed the course of my life in many ways, medically, and then also obviously what I do career-wise. So I worked in sports business as my degree, and worked in professional athlete management for a nonprofit, as well as a consultant for many years. So similar to Kevin, sports has always been one of those things. I worked through high school. After I wasn't able to participate, I had another mentor coach in high school who got me involved in athlete managing, and managed our basketball teams through high school. The varsity team at men's Ibell, where we won a national championship, and then for 4 years the Canadian national team. So ironic, I'm 4'8" and I'm working in the sport of giants, right? But that's just a sport that happened to be the one that I fell in love with. I'm definitely a sportsman, and not at Kevin's level participating, but it's one of those things. It's like my condition. Sports has always been there. It's like a dear friend that never goes away. And so I wanted to give this background because it gets you into where I'll give a little bit of insight into fundraising. And so this conference did the bike ride, and then in 2003, because of a doctor I met at that conference, I was able to find out about a clinical trial that was taking place in North Carolina. And so there was 9 trial sites. There was 90 patients. So over the years, from 1979, we found out there was 4 patients. Now we know there's just over 2,000. So talking about awareness and finding a community, which I'll touch on in a minute, is so important, because as a result, a pharmaceutical company invested in starting a clinical trial for MPS 2 Hunter syndrome. And as a result, I traveled once a week for 2 years, moved back from Victoria to Toronto, commuted once a week for 2 years at Chapel Hill, and still to this day I receive home infusions of the enzyme that I'm missing that stops the progression of my disease. So it's life-changing. But 3 years ago, I decided to leave my other career in sports business to give back to this community, the community of MPS 2, MPS, and all rare diseases, with really sharing my story. And so that's kind of where I wanted to get into sort of insight into fundraising and share some of my successes and things that I think could be helpful for persons with disabilities. And I think first and foremost is really, what's your story? If it's an individual, an organization, a cause, or foundation, what's the story or message that you want to share for your group? And so obviously I was able to, over the course of my life, define my story. I really believe my story is part of my calling, and that's why I left my other career. I was doing all this work in philanthropy in parallel to my business career, my education, since the age of 24 when I did the bike ride. But I'm now dedicating myself to opening a foundation, iBellieve Foundation, and doing it that's much of my career now. So I share that story to the second point is, what are the goals that you, as an individual, a person with disabilities, your organization, your foundation, your cause, is really trying to find goals that are achievable. So when I talk to people and give some insight into fundraising when they ask me, is really make them achievable and simple, and don't bite off more than you can chew. So for me is finding a cure for MPS II, and to advocate for rare diseases here in Canada, primarily to find and create the first ever federal rare disease plan. Canada is the only country in the Western world, developed world, with no rare disease policy to support 3 million Canadians that suffer from a rare disease. So finding a cure, we have a cure in a sense, but it's really a treatment, which is the one I receive every week. But then also is advocating for rare diseases. And the third thing is finding your community. There's so many amazing, all of you here are leaders in the person with disability space, your organization individually is, who is your community? Like obviously my community, for example, is MPS II, MPS, and the broader community of rare diseases. I think the key is for finding the community for you individually, if it's your organization. Those are going to be the people that are going to be your first touch point to support and help you raise money. So if it's someone that suffers from whichever disability it may be, whatever organization you're working for, is to find that group of people, and then people that are connected to those constituents. So I think that's first and foremost is really important, is to find your community and work within that community, because they're going to bring you all the assets that you need in your first point. And from there you can find contacts through those people, and slowly but surely. And then I think the fourth thing is really to get people involved, is give people the opportunity. I think people that may not have a disability or are connected to you individually, if you're raising money for yourself as a person with disability, your organization, your foundation, whatever the cause is really giving people that may not have a disability, Keenan touched on this, is really to get them involved, because you can bring these people opportunities, either volunteering, letting their time, maybe it's their services, or a lawyer, accountants, and things like that. And so these are things that I've tried to do. And then also is creating experiences, experiential, opportunities to raise money, right? So create unique campaigns and events and things like that, depending on obviously keeping costs low for any charity or foundation, but creating opportunities to raise the awareness, which is, and then the second fold is why we're here, is fundraising. So for example, one of the things we did last year for an anniversary of the 10 years I've been on these weekly infusions was playing off the name MPS II, and I come from a big sports and entertainment background, so I was able to utilize those. So we created, one of my friends who plays in an NBA, we did a month-long campaign of donating $20 for every 2 pointers, so playing on the name MPS II, so 2 for MPS II, and we did a month-long campaign. So, and obviously all of us have seen the success, the controversial success of the Ice Bucket Challenge, but obviously from a fundraising perspective, it's been $80+ million they raised, which is phenomenal. But creating these unique campaigns, and I really believe we all have the ability to do that. It's just finding what it is that your goals are, your community, and just putting something unique together that's simple, right? Don't overthink it. And then obviously, as Terry touched on, is through your community is finding maybe you have them personally or contacts on your boards, is the high net worth individuals, major gifts, so sponsorship for the foundations, your cause, your events. I think those are really important. And then also, I think something that's really, that we need to utilize that's been very good for us at the iBellieve Foundation is the power of social media. I think because through your community, they may not all be in the Ottawa, Ontario, or Canada, is really be able to connect with these people. Building a virtual community through Twitter is very, very important. It's really not even just tweeting, but building a conversation with these people that are within your group and your community. Obviously, the power of Facebook, Instagram. I think something that's really been really good for us, and obviously Kevin showed his video today, is images, right? So imagery is really important to show people, and the storytelling, right? So going back to my first point, you can't downplay the story. Everyone that's here today has an amazing story to tell, and so if your organization is to be able to have those stories told with imagery, with video, share them through social, and then obviously if you're doing events and things, to be able to take advantage of traditional media through print, and everyone is obviously within your groups. We've seen obviously the Terry Foxes of the world and the Rick Hansen, people like that, but each of us, regardless of our disability, we have champions, and people from the business sector, the celebrity world, the sports world, and even if they're not directly affected, maybe they have a family member or a friend or someone that has a disability that wants to be a champion for your cause. And last but not least, something that we've used in the last couple of years since we started is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is really important. So if you guys have something you want to achieve within your organization or individually or foundation and that's another way to connect with the community. You're building your community, you're giving people an opportunity to be a part of your cause and feel like they're part of your group and really making a difference. For example, for a documentary that we're working on, we raised $36,000 in 3 weeks, just all on Kickstarter. So like the opportunity, the tools are there. And another thing that you may want to consider if you haven't thought about it already is Google has something called Google for Nonprofits. So, and any charity or foundation that has nonprofit or charity status has access to sign up online through Google Canada. It started in the States, and you get all these different tools that are free that provide opportunities to raise awareness. So they give $10,000 a month in free advertising through their Google AdWords program. So all these things that are at our doorstep, like I have my office, small office, which is great. I work in the Center for Social Innovation in downtown Toronto, and I have all these people that work in different sectors, but they're potential collaborators. I've collaborated with a lot of them that can help us reach our goal. We help them where they need help as well. So, I'm really honored to be here today, and obviously I hope our emails get shared after the meeting so we can continue the conversation. I think this is a brilliant starting point, but it's just really nice to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
These are both very, very unique and inspiring stories. Do we have time for questions? Yeah, we do have time for questions. I think that would be the most important thing, is to allow people to ask their questions of these two remarkable guys. I'll start. Speaking of the ice bucket challenge and that phenomena that happened, how else, like that worked, right? But how else do you get people to identify with something that they don't know anything about?
It's a great point, right? Like I don't think no one could have predicted the ice bucket challenge. And I'm not sure if you read the history on it. It actually started a couple years ago, but obviously they got a champion involved. So I think the key is like Terry said, starting the storytelling, right? So you have to select stories and you build on that. And obviously not everyone has the ability to have a celebrity to get involved, but if you can have a message that I think is far-reaching and to people that can relate to, I think that's the most important thing. So sure, in an ideal world, it might be nice to have someone that's a champion that people are familiar with, but I don't think it's completely necessary. Obviously, an extreme example similar is what prostate cancer Movember, right? So simple ideas that people can relate to. Like, I'm always trying to wrap my brain, what's going to be the next like challenge, right? Which we probably all are, but I think just having something that's telling a story people can relate to, and it's not complicated for them to do. So obviously with ALS, and the thing is, I think the fourth thing is you want to get people engaged, right? In terms of fundraising, they're really, really important, but you want those people to return as fundraisers, right? So that's the other challenge is getting them to donate, but also making sure that they still stay part of your team as well. But keeping it simple, I think people, it's something that's relatable.
Oh, we do have a question.
Thank you very much, Liz. I have a question for Kevin. Kevin, when we spoke on the phone, you had some great ideas when it came to fundraising. Could you give me one of those now?
In my world in the fundraising, because of my sporting contacts, I try to propose to people to put me to a challenge, to anything that they want to see me accomplish. For example, one example would be I was offered to do a 100K skate on the canal. And I said, well, what will I get in return? And the gentleman said, well, we'll make sure we match up to $5,000. So that was one of the incentives I have. The other incentive that I've created was I got a couple music friends who are involved in the music world, and we did a couple music bashes. And what's really unique about music is when we all know when you get people drinking how much generous they are, because they forget about their wallets until they get home the next morning. So, but that's okay, as long as you're helping the cause. So that's why we were able to accomplish that. So I've done a few of the concert fundraising, and it's gone really, really well. And with the missions in Mexico, it's a unique approach because I work with the Mexican community, the Mexico government, and also the embassy in Ottawa, because there's a lot of medical expenses that you incur when you try to ship medical products to different countries. So there are little loopholes that we can work when you're doing transferring stuff to different countries. You live and learn as you approach those. So that's how I had to deal with that kind of issue. And then there's some. I've been very fortunate also through my connections in the NHL, able to get some, you'd be amazing what a signed jersey can do in any kind of auction. And I've seen them go as high as $2,000 to $3,000. I kind of shake my head, but that's okay. If they want to pay that much for it, that's fine. But it's really neat. It's all about, I'm sure Simon's aware, it's all about connections too. And the more connections you have, when needed, they'll step up for you. As long as you're doing good, they're going to give back to you. And I was sharing one experience with one of the colleagues here. Because I'm legally blind, I have a Braille card, and really interestingly, I got two of my sponsors because there were bumps on the card. So it's really interesting how people remember you. The guy was at a cottage, and he was cleaning out his wallet, and he said, oh my gosh, I've got to sponsor Kevin Frost, and the only reason he knew because there were bumps on the card. So really a neat business strategy from that angle. And there's a few more, but I'm sure Simon has tons of ideas how to do some funny. But those are my experiences.
Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, both of you have big themes of giving back and always giving and giving back, and also of, I think, having people taking ownership of an idea, a concept, or a party, or something. Like if people feel a part of something, then they will give. And we have another question?
Sure, it's for Simon. Simon, you mentioned social media. I've tried to encourage nonprofits to get a little more engaged, and sometimes how they do that is they put their logo on Twitter and then send out press releases. Whereas I've noticed that with you and your organization, it's a real person that responds. I wonder if you could speak to the importance of that. Was that something you figured out, or it just was a natural tendency?
Can you repeat the question, Liz? I just couldn't. It's a bit of an echo.
He's saying like he notices that with your social media, you actually respond.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that this is probably an essential part.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think similar to what Liz was just saying, you want ownership, you want people to get involved. With social media, it's essentially another language, right? And so I'm grateful that one of my board members is actually a leader in the digital social media space. But even before that, I try to teach myself kind of the etiquette. But you really, and obviously, your community and your followers will grow. There's spikes in having events or campaigns and things like that. But my personal and my iBellieve is key that you always respond to people in a timely fashion, because it's like having a conversation, but just a different medium, right? So you need to make sure that they feel included. So regardless if it's on Facebook, or I think Twitter is one of the, is really undervalued, but I think obviously more and more people are starting to appreciate Twitter and the power of it as an information medium. So I definitely encourage you to respond to people in timely fashion.
Thank you. And another question over here, or point?
Yeah, my question is for both Simon and Kevin. I guess my question really is around the team that you build to help you with your fundraising. Because we all know that fundraising is not one person, it is often a very strong team. So what advice do you have for those of us in the room around recruiting and sustaining a good team?
Having a team is very critical to your fundraising. So what advice do you have in terms of recruiting and sustaining a team around you?
Okay, Kevin, do you want to give that a go?
I 10-4, I got that. So one of my successes on keeping my team motivated on creating my foundation and recruiting new people is I go back to that giving little philosophy. With my contacts, again, I get extra things done for them in a favor. For example, when I did the movie Blind Ambition, they spent about 60 hours in, but it was 4 ladies who spent their dedication for a month in trying to make this happen. So you know what at least I could do? And I got them to sponsor it. I got them all a weekend spa away. But I didn't have to pay for it because that company got their name put when they walked into the movie. In return, she got an extra 40 clients just for that. So it's really amazing. It's paying forward. It's a very powerful tool that we all kind of, it's how to create that contact to make it happen. What can you give back in return that my company gonna, and it comes to advertising. So this was a visual advertising. That's one of them. There's a few more, but it's I think when you want to keep your team together, you always got to forethink what interests them, what kicks them. Get to know them really well personally, and they will do 10 times as much more for you.
Thank you, excellent. Pay forward. And do you have anything to add, Simon?
Yeah, I think with my foundation is have a solid board. It's just not just a board in name only with the individuals. It's each person that's on the board has a dedicated role, and they know what they're responsible for. So as I alluded to before with the social media digital, like one of my friends, he's a successful businessman in that area, so he provides the consultancy and helps out with like our website we launched earlier this year, and so him and I work closely on that. So I work closely with each board member on different roles and tasks that they are responsible for definitely obviously on a volunteer basis for the iBellieve Foundation. And then, as Kevin said, like we just did an event a couple of weeks ago in Dundas, Ontario, actually a cycling event. We had 60 plus volunteers, and we had, I think, around 20 sponsors. And so what we want, as Kevin said, you pay it forward. What can we do? You do something for us. What can I do for you? And so it's kind of the give and take, right? So if you have that conversation, communicate with those people that have an interest to support your cause, they're usually pretty open about finding a happy medium of how you can support each other. And then obviously volunteers, be it a specific event or volunteer in the foundation in general. I'm fortunate to have that, is being able to give people ownership of something, tasks that they maybe have that skill set, and they can help give that from a volunteer perspective.
Okay, thank you. This is just an amazing panel. I think you both are absolutely incredible in so many ways, and with so many strong, positive messages that I think are right on track.
Thank you.
I have just one more little extra trick that helps with me is this guy right here. You'd be amazed.
Yeah.
I've always bugged Canadian Guide Dog that I want to name my dog Chick Magnet.
Yeah.
Because everywhere I go, so I'm going to try and think of a name for a sponsor. So I'd like to share a true story about a guide dog. There was an emergency landing in Washington, and they landed, and this guy, John, traveled a lot. So they landed in Washington, and the pilot came to John and said, John, I realize your guide dog must be tired, you must be tired. And the pilot said, I haven't seen my dog in 4 days. Can I take your guide dog for a walk? And John says, not really supposed to do it, but you know what, I'm tired. So yes, can you go please relieve my dog? So the pilot walks out and goes to relieve the dog, and he comes back, and the pilot says, John, we got a problem. He goes, what's that? And John says, oh my gosh, I forgot to take the harness off. They thought you were flying the plane. True story.
Thank you. That's a good place to wrap it